to open session at 6 o'clock, and Trustee Matson will be absent this evening. And we don't have any closed sessions to report out. Do we have any public participation of non-agenda items?
No, we do not.
No.
Okay. And we need approval of agenda. Is there anything we need to move around on the agenda? You're happy with the order? So reopening is 10.6, and then we have another, the Safe Schools for All plan is in discussion, and that's how we want to keep it. Becky?
So the reopening is 10.6 under action. We've made the commitment to keep it under action. And then the Safe Schools plan, it's going to kind of be back and forth with all of that. Really 11.1 could be combined into 10.6 because I have to talk about 11.1 with 10.6. So a lot of that is going to be intermingled. Okay.
So maybe we'll just keep it the way it is.
But the reason why that particular part is on information and discussion is because I was concerned that we were going to have a discussion about it or potentially hold a special meeting if we get to the grant part. But there's no decision yet. So I think you can stay the way it is.
Okay, great. Just want to clarify. So may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? And I don't see Kathy. Where'd you go?
She's there.
I'm here.
Okay. I just can't see you. Thank you. Okay. Very good. So moved. So we will begin next with the patriotic exercise by Superintendent Walker.
So a couple of things this month. January is School Board Appreciation Month, so I wanted to take a moment to thank all of our school board members for the service that you provide to our community. There's a blurb also in acknowledgement that I'll read shortly. I don't think what folks recognize is that you are public servants, and we appreciate you as a board because you are the overseers of our district. And not to put age on anybody, but you would be kind of like the grandparents in a family. You're the ones who have the wisdom and look at all of us in the district and make sure that mom and dad are behaving and that all the grandkids get the extra somethings that they need. So thank you for your dedication to our district. It is a very time-consuming job. No one decides to run an election to have the clout of being a school board member. The perks aren't that great, but what you do for our community is hugely appreciated. So thank you. The other thing that I wanted to acknowledge this month in our patriotic exercise was Dr. Martin Luther King. So I have a poem by Patricia Neely Dorsey, and she is an author of 2 books of poetry, Reflections of a Mississippi Magnolia, A Life in Poems, and My Magnolia Memories and Musings in Poems. Through her poems, the author hopes to protect, preserve, promote the rich cultural history and heritage of her state of Mississippi. And the poem is entitled, Thank You, Dr. King. Dr. King, we thank you for taking the stand and for fighting injustice all through the land. We appreciate you implementing your nonviolent plan, seeking equality for every human. Changes have come that have benefited many, and the challenge remains to leave out not any. The struggle continues to make it clear that everyone's rights and freedoms are dear. May we never forget to honor your dream and seek those ideals, no matter how hard it may seem. We look to your example in leading the way to a brighter future and a much better day. So just to acknowledge Dr. Martin Luther King lived from January 15th, 1929, and died April 4th, 1968. He was assassinated. So thank you, Dr. King and the Dr. King family, for all they continue to do for our country and our world.
Thank you so much. So we'll move on to acknowledgements. So if you could help us acknowledge.
Acknowledgements. So right back to the School Board Appreciation Month. As citizens who serve children and represent their communities, school board members face complex and demanding challenges. The month of January is designated as School Board Recognition Month in honor of the critical role our school board members play in serving our students, our communities, and our state. So thank you again to our prestigious board members. 5.2, we had a donation made by Margot Rose Charity Fund to support COVID-19 emergency feeding program through the FBUSD Nutrition Services in the amount of $300. Thank you so much for the donation.
Great. So I will report out the communication that I received. We received, the whole board, I believe, received a letter from Scott Menzie, along with other elected officials. We received a CSBA and I think a couple other organizations, Small District Association, letter to the governor. I received an email from Mrs. Tunzi to share the Ag Department awards, and another communication is oftentimes at the grocery store for me. So does anyone else have anything else to report? Seeing none, we will move on to public participation on agenda items. And I just want to remind folks, obviously, if you can see us, you know we're live streaming on YouTube channel. And if you'd like to submit any comments, a public comment, you can email boardmeetings@fbusd.us, which is also on the bottom of your screen. And the staff will attempt to share and record any submission received prior to or during the meeting. And we do have our new administrative assistant, Renee, helping us this evening. Welcome, Renee. And I will just say that in advance, 72 hours, if you do need translation services, please contact Renee. So do we have any public?
There are no public comments at this time.
For the agenda. Okay, very good. So I won't have to read my blurb. And we'll go right into board reports, 8.1. Does anyone have anything to report? Kathy, and then Mary.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
So,
I just had two quick things. One is that I attended a webinar that CSBA had right after the governor did his budget synopsis. I was kind of in and out, so I missed some of it, but I really am appreciating CSBA's opening up lots of meetings for us to attend. So I did that. And then I also wanted to just comment on the weekly food pickup. I don't know what school week we are, but every week the staff is always smiling. And I mean, I come at sometimes 5 minutes to 3 and they're still smiling. And I just want to thank them. And because I know it takes a lot of people to put that together, not just the food service staff. I know, for example, Stephanie is over helping doing the super snack. So anyway, I just want to really put a shout out to the everybody that's helping with the food and how pleasant and organized, even in the rain, it's been. So thank you for that.
Mary?
Okay, so I attended the Three Rivers board meeting this week and also board chat this morning, which sadly we had no one, but we had a nice conversation, I thought. And there's been a lot of webinars, like Kathy said, CSBA's had lots of offerings for us. In addition to EdWeek has provided some and EdSource and a few others. But today I attended one on educator wellness, a seminar, which was, it was done really well. It had some really great strategies, which I'm hoping to share. And it just reminded me that we have to take care of everybody. So echoing what Kathy said, thank you to all the staff. You're all working so very, very hard, and all of our administrators. Nice to see all of you. Thank you.
Sure. So just real quick, in the same vein, new semester, and just want to thank everyone for coming back from break and digging right into this next half of the year. Having kids in the district, I definitely notice a more rigorous, confident, and successful start than we had in the fall. And I think that takes effort from everybody involved. I also want to thank the administration for not only organizing vaccines for this district's staff, but it looks like for districts all up and down the coast. You guys really played a leadership role in providing an opportunity for as many people as possible to get vaccinated. And I'm glad that the gym will probably be used many times in the future for the community to come and get vaccinated. I know it's been a hard, long year, and it's great. I just encourage everyone to keep on trucking. And thank you for your service to our children and to each other. And a question for Becky, going back to the donations, if I may, Diana, real quick. It's great people give donations and we get these amounts. Is there any place that we post or we put out calls for small donations? Like, hey, we need this, we need that, or does it all happen within little committee meetings and organized groups, or maybe not so organized groups?
So the donations that we typically get that you see in the acknowledgements are either specific to a group or random donations. And so this one was I believe it was a donation that came through Pilar. They contacted her and asked how they could help. So that's how we got that. Typically donations though usually come from our clubs. Like you'll see donations to AG or to a club or to the parents' clubs. Or to a teacher's classroom. So we don't necessarily put out a call for donations. You will see typically on an in-person school year that teachers will have a wish list, and then we get donations that way. Typically our main donations come through our parents' clubs. Does that answer your question?
It does. And I guess I would just, we have the administrators on the call this month, which is great, but with all the stimulus money and maybe more coming, I know that families may be able and willing to help, either a classroom or something. And I know we're not in person, so if there's any ways that those requests, as appropriate, can come through, I think there are people out there that want to help if they can. So that's all.
Great, thank you, Scott. Laura?
I was going to add that our teachers, when they have things that they want, they do donors choose. And so that's a really good place to go to if the community wants to donate. We have purchased novels for each of our grade levels, and a lot of that was through donors choose. So anything that our teachers want, that's usually the venue they go through.
Thank you. So for my board report, I attended ELAC meeting at Redwood, and like the board chat this morning, we didn't have any parents, but we had staff show up, and they brainstormed some really good ideas of maybe trying to reach out to families. And January was a hard month for families, and then we met last time in November on Election Day, and that wasn't a good day to meet either. So hopefully they'll figure out their new ideas to try to reach families that's convenient for them. And the other, there was California Collaborative has been doing some very concise, the healthcare, our health leaders webinars. And so I've attended a couple of those. And then there was a great budget webinar. I don't remember who put that on, but it probably was CSBA. I want to end with my board report. The district, along with many other essential workers, restaurants, grocery stores, postal service, delivery, everyone that's working and making our little town hum and still work during this pandemic, was given an award, a proclamation from our mayor, Norvell. And I just want to quote him. I thought his quote in the press release was very positive. He says, I ask all of you to look out for Fort Bragg and to check on your neighbors, your friends, and keep your focus on home. Do not let what is happening elsewhere change who you are. In the report that way. So our next report is 8.2 school plans for student achievement mid-year review for each site in our district. So we will be starting with alternative ed.
And just before we begin, let me just give a quick blurb to the board and the public. So this year, We typically present our school site plans, our single plan for student achievement, and now it's called the school plan for student achievement. We typically present those in May and have them for board approval. This year, because of COVID, that was not done. And it was not done on purpose because we weren't able to foresee into the future about what we could do and what we could not do. And it's really been a year of triage. So what I'm asking the principals to do right now is to give you a brief report, because they are preparing their school plans for student achievement, to come at you in May and to just do a quick review of just some preview of upcoming attractions and what they're looking at, really just a few minutes, only because the plans are, the plans right now that they have that they're working under are the 1920 plans, which are really not applicable in our COVID times. So just a little background for all of you. Connie, you lucky girl, you get to go first.
Hi there. So we are in the middle of big picture learning. This is our year of jumping completely into it. And when I look at what we've achieved, I am really proud of my staff. We've got kids who never came to school logging on and doing things that they are enjoying. We've got a student in an internship. We've got 2 or 3 students that are getting ready to do internships. I have students that are, I had 25 kids earn 15 or more credits the second quarter, which is pretty impressive for our group. And the teachers are all doing great stuff, and we have kids doing diverse things. We have students that are one student's making a fur costume. Another student is learning to weld, and we have some kids learning to cook and collating or gathering recipes from the grandparents. And it's been very rewarding, and it comes with a lot of hard work, but we are achieving our goals of which is more credits per quarter, more attendance. And for the first time ever since I have been at Alt Ed, we have 0 suspensions and referrals. So it's a good day when that happens. So so we are humming along, and it's going well. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Connie.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Lundy Erickson, our wonderful principal at Redwood Elementary.
Hi, everybody. So we continue to move forward with all the areas of the site plan, focusing on the 3 FBUSD goals. There's a number of things that are challenging to address because we have our school site closed to students at this time, but we're also able to move forward with a lot. I wanted to take a moment and just highlight, just like Connie did, highlight the effort of our staff. The work that our teachers have done this year has been absolutely incredible. Not only are they managing some tech challenges and learning new things every day, but they're supporting students and families' emotional needs. They're addressing the academic gaps that they're seeing. They're doing it all, and they're doing it with grace, and they're working so hard to make this a successful year. And it was really nice, Scott, to hear your perspective on the beginning of the year coming back from the break, because I'm glad that their efforts are being noticed. I'm seeing it too, and it's really exciting. I also wanted to highlight the work that our counselor is doing. Catherine Bernsdorf is doing an incredible job of supporting students and staff and families, and really helping coordinate getting families connected, whether that's with local resources or school resources, making sure that communication is happening effectively, providing counseling for kids. She's just doing some incredible work. She's doing parent outreach. So it's been really exciting to see how our staff has been able to come together and really fulfill some of the things that are in the site plan. And I look forward to moving into the next year and seeing what else that we can do. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Kale from Dana Gray Elementary.
Hi, Rick Kale, Dana Gray Elementary Principal. So I want to echo what Lundy said. You know, the teachers are just doing amazing things, and the learning curve and the work and all of it, it's just straight up in the air. Just amazing what they're doing. Just to kind of give you an insight as to where we're at. In fact, I had a great conversation about our site planning with the site council today. We've reviewed it with staff. We've reviewed it with our ELAC group the previous time. The last ELAC meeting, no parents showed up, but it was available the previous time to look at. You know, the real kind of tortured moment for us is we're planning for both a distance learning and a here learning, you know, an in-person learning. So it's kind of hard to get that in our minds that we have to be ready for all sorts of scenarios. To give you a couple of examples of the way we've kind of altered or adjusted what we're doing, you know, again, it's the goals. Let me do the goals. They're career and college awareness, their improved student achievement, and school culture. So in the school culture way, we did have first trimester awards, which was really hard for us to do. Like, we had to do it virtually. We had to figure out who to give awards to. We had to figure out how to get awards to kids. And so we used the plan that we had, and we used the systems, Parent Square and other systems that we had. And we sort of made it fit and made it work. And we created 16 individual assemblies for our kids, where the counselor and the principal jumped into the classroom and did a and we did our assembly and then jumped into the next classroom. So it was fun, but it was also, you know, quite a challenge. Another kind of simple example or great example is, and to highlight the work of our school counselors, Carl Cook is doing an amazing job. He has taken the PBIS groups and turned them into the Grub Club, which is a funny lunchtime scenario where all of the kids are invited to come together and eat lunch together in the cafeteria. And the cafeteria looks much like what we're looking at right now, except you would be eating lunch together and chatting. And it is, if you ever get the luxury of an invite into that place, it is quite interesting to hang out with a bunch of 8-year-olds as they chat with each other and eat lunch. So anyway, that's where we're at, and we're moving forward. All of the groups are still looking at the goals, and we're developing creative and wonderful ideas for whatever comes our way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rick. Our middle school principal, Laura Vieira.
Good evening, everybody. Just as all of the other administrators have mentioned, our teachers are working tirelessly to address the needs of our students. At the middle school, our site plan, what we're actually doing is incredibly different because we are self-contained. So that the level of collaboration that's happening in our grade level teams is phenomenal, and they are supporting one another. For instance, our humanities teacher is helping support the math teacher when they're delivering the humanities lesson, and working really closely together on a daily basis on the lesson development and instruction delivery to our kids. Our focus has been on professional development and writing, and we've been working with Kelly Smith, who has been in our district for several years now, and building stronger writing skills as one of the anchor standards for our students to help with their communication, which will address all of the content areas. If you're a good writer, you're a good communicator, and that just helps you in your classes. We also are focused on restorative practices, and our counselor is going into every classroom every week to help lead a circle if the teacher requests that support, and also that way she gets to be in contact with all of our students on a weekly basis and keep tabs on who might need extra support at any given time. We are also starting to talk about what next year will look like and imagining the different scenarios of how we can meet the needs of our students and structure middle school in maybe a more creative way, a different way. So we just started talking about what that might look like at our staff meeting this week. And then as people are starting to think about different ideas, they're coming to Mr. Chimolino and I and saying, hey, I thought about this, and what if we tried this? So the nice thing about middle school is we can be flexible and try different things. So we have started those conversations in planning for what next year will look like. So thank you.
And Mr. Triplett, our high school principal.
Thank you. Similar, yes, we have similar goals as everyone else, the 3 goals. It has been a challenge, with some of those goals, like, how do you improve school culture when majority of your, kids are at home. So, we've been working on some, we changed the way we've done student of the month, send stuff home for kids. Usually we have a ceremony at school. Virtual ceremony is kind of weird. So we're working on how we can do a virtual awards night as well as Mr. Kale did for our end of the year awards. And since we condensed our classes, we've had some challenges. I just want to do some of the highlights. Our counselors just got done with, with all the college apps, and it was interesting, with all the applications and, trying to do a lot of things virtual. So that was a lot of work, and all the letters of recommendations our, staff has completed. I was walking around today and just seeing, some of the things the teachers had to, they've had to change the way they teach. And I went into one class, the TV, the big 65-inch TV was up. There was a laptop sitting on the desk, being talked at. We had chats going on there, talking to a group up there, and just what our teachers are doing. It's, they've had to rethink of how they teach. And, it's been a challenge, but they've been working tirelessly to try to meet that challenge. Our culinary, how do you do a culinary class and teach kids how to cook when, everybody's at home? So it's been interesting, our Ms. Vallis, she's sent stuff home to kids, but it's great going in there, seeing, her demonstrating, cooking. I had my daughters in one of her classes, and it's just, it's great to see that, kids are still engaged, even though it's distance. Miss Tunzi, she just had out there, she had boxes getting ready to send home to her, the advanced kids to do some, experiments and things like that at home. And so, it's been a struggle with, some of the way we normally do things here, but, it's been great to see how things have changed. And I really believe that, when we have the luxury of having kids back on campus, I think this has forced us to look at how do we engage all students, because this has opened up the way we how we can engage kids. Because, we know it, being at school with 500 other kids, it can be stressful on a lot of kids. And so I think there's ways we can reach them. So it's great that we are looking at, different ways to reach kids. And, on a final note, Mr. Kubo, I seen a kid today in the library, ran outside, and they were doing a bunch of exercises in the foyer to get out of the library so it wouldn't disrupt others. So, our teachers are working hard to engage students, and it's great. Yes, we would love to have kids back on campus more than that we have right now, but they are thinking outside the box and doing the best they can with what we are kind of forced to do right now. So it's been a tough year, but like I said, we're working as best we can to try to mitigate some of the circumstances we're in right now. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Diana, would you like me to go right into the superintendent report, or do you have questions?
I just had one quick question, and I'm just curious, and it's probably an elementary school question. Just knowing if the curriculum that everyone has, they're able to kind of assess where kids are like in reading, because normally you kind of know when you have that summer slide, you start school, you realize that they've kind of dropped back, they were at grade level or almost grade level. Can you assess, like today, do you know where everyone's at by the tools that you have to know, does it feel like a summer slide, or is it bigger, or is it the gap's not as big? I'm just curious because I worry about the reading.
So Diana, we are able to successfully assess kids virtually. Of course, we'd prefer to have them sitting next to us. That would simplify things a little bit, but our teachers have done a great job doing that. And we're evaluating those scores. It's a little bit tricky to compare because we're doing it virtually. It's hard to know with some of our scores whether the difference is because that child doesn't have the relationship, or if there were technical difficulties. We're anticipating that we're going to have some kids that we need to bring up to speed next year, but our kids continue to make progress.
And I was just going to add, we see growth out there. We really do. One of the measures that was very interesting, because we're always looking for apples to apples kind of measures, is the ORR that we have done. And I shared a
and hold on, Mr. Kale. ORR is the oral reading record.
Mm-hmm. And it's an assessment that's done with the teacher and the kid together, and it is probably as close as you could possibly be. They're listening to them read to them directly. And so we have seen a lot of growth in different areas. We've seen some stagnation as well, to be real. Yeah, it is interesting, and we continue to use all of the data that we have and to make decisions about kids.
Great. I'm glad that's very helpful, and that there's engagement for sure. So superintendent report, please.
The first one on the list is the 5th grade Coastal Forum. Trustee Babcock and I worked on this with the MECA group, and I have to say I saw Carl Cook at the vaccination clinic, and he was beaming because we've asked Carl Cook to lead the charge on the 5th grade Coastal Forum. What that is that we have 5th graders coming from Point Arena, Manchester, Mendocino, Three Rivers, and Fort Bragg. And we're bringing them together in a virtual setting just like this, the Brady Brunch Grid. We allow the kids to come together, and Mr. Carl Cook facilitates and poses questions and topics that are relevant to a 5th grader's life, and they have a discussion. Yes, Kathy.
Can you just remind the public who Mr. Cook is?
Mr. Cook is the Dana Gray counselor. So he got deemed with this prestigious task because he is Dana Gray, and Dana Gray is our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So he had a wonderful experience. Not as many students as they had hoped. There were 12 kids total. He said that afterwards that parents were asking, can we do this every week? The kids had asked, can we do it longer than just an hour? So they wanted to be in there with each other longer, which really goes to show that our kids need a place where they can be social outside of academics. So I applaud all of our teachers who are providing that and really focusing in on student mental health. The 5th grade Coastal Forum is one step for this group of 12 kids. So thank you, Mr. Cook, for your Herculean efforts to get that going, and Ms. Babcock for the vision. So we're excited. They will be meeting again. I didn't get to get the next date from him, but I will be sure to do that by the next board meeting. You can see in the board packet the flyer that was put together that advertised it. Now that we had our first go around, students are excited for the next one. So we anticipate there will be more kids for that. Questions on that? Moving right along, our CTE report. So just so everyone knows, we are asked to give a CTE report to the board at least once annually. And so our CTE departments are agriculture, and that's run by Ms. Megan Tunzi. And then our art department is a new teacher, Ms. Yesenia Vasquez, for the high school, and then Mr. Godak for the middle school when we return to a departmentalized setting. We also have construction. Construction we've had to put on hold this year for obvious reasons. So we hope to reinvent that program when we come to the fall. And then culinary at the middle school, it has been Ms. Loomis, but again, we don't have that this year because of COVID. And then Ms. Amy Valla at the high school. And then we have Mr. Carr for digital. It's not digital media. It is, Mr. Triplett, Jamie's not here. Mary, help me out here. Is it computers?
I think you're going to ask me that.
Anyway,
it has to do with web design and I forget.
Yeah, okay. But it's our technology pathway. And so those are the pathways that we have for such a small school district to have construction, agriculture, culinary, art, and tech. Did I say technology? I think we have 5: technology, construction, agriculture, art, and culinary. Yes, to have 5, that's huge. So I asked our CTE teachers for just a little blurb. Ms. Temsey gave us a report for the agriculture department. Despite the unusual learning conditions this year, it has been a mission to keep the hands-on learning experiences alive for students enrolled in the agriculture courses. Students have been provided take-home kits with a variety of labs and activities that allowed them to not only learn the content, but experience what it may look like through a model or experiment. With fewer students in the agriculture department this year, students have been offered the opportunity to take a couple of classes that may not normally be offered, which has been a huge learning curve, but also a lot of fun. The student organization FFA has continued to thrive despite the virtual nature of everything. We have continued FFA meetings for our local chapter, participated in virtual leadership conferences, and even participated in virtual public speaking events. It has been awesome to see the students continue to be involved and excited about something given the uncertainty of so much these days. So thank you to Ms. Temsey. Mr. Carr reports that the advanced digital media class is hard at work relaunching the Wolves Den. The advanced class designed the student-created content hub last year, but had to go on hiatus in March. We've just ordered some equipment to help make the relaunch happen with distance learning. So look out for the relaunch of the site in the next week or 2 with new student-created content like podcasts, art, writing, and videos. Thank you, Mr. Carr. For art, Ms. Vasquez has geared foundation assignments to essential visual design skills and vocabulary and has created an advanced art course that helps students move towards arts and design-related careers. Ms. Vasquez has had guest speakers visit via Google Meet to speak with students about fashion design and also storyboard drawing for the film industry. Assignments have included stop motion animation, designs, and psychology of color. Ms. Vasquez has been meeting weekly with middle school art teacher Jason Godek to discuss curriculum, the CTE pathway, and strategies for the classroom in the online context in general. So those are our reports from our CTE group. Questions? And I want to check one more thing just to make sure I've got it all. I know Ms. Valla has been doing an enormous amount with the culinary classes. So we see the emails from her typically with the leftover food. So I have to tell you, I've been incredibly jealous of not being a high school principal right now, but I think my waistline is super appreciative of that. And let me just make sure I've got all of them. Yes. Okay. So next on the agenda is the COVID-19 safety plan. So you have in your packet the COVID-19 plan. Let me just get to that. This is the plan that we need to help us to reopen schools. You're going to be taking action on this today in the reopening plan. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to just tell you what it is before we get into that. So this is this is the DTS, Document Tracking Services. This is what we need to help reopen. This is our Cal OSHA plan. So you have it in front of you if you have any questions, but we can attack all of that under action. Is there anything for me right now?
That was my only question. I didn't know if this was meeting the anyway, we'll talk about it.
This is the Cal OSHA part. Yes. Okay.
Kathy?
So my only question is, when you read it, it says that the district will provide testing. Now, I got a little nervous with, the threat at one time that whoever was paying for the testing before was going to, and is that going to lock us in if the testing gets pulled, that we have to pay and provide?
We have no choice. Okay. We have no choice. We have to provide testing for our employees. It doesn't mean they have to take it, but we have to provide it. We've been blessed. We are working with Mendocino Coast Clinics. They are working with the state contracted lab. So it's been this last round has been free for us. We have been getting our employees tested under that umbrella. If it all goes away and we still have to provide testing, that will be on our dime. There were, I believe, 3 weeks, Wendy, 2 or 3 weeks in December when the state lab was not, when the state did not have a contract with the lab through the Mendocino Coast Clinics. So the Mendocino Lodging Association actually paid for our tests as a donation. They use the COVID tax money that they collect through lodging, and they paid for our employee tests. If they had not done that, we would have had to pay for that for Bragg Unified. So we are locked into that whether we like it or not. We've been lucky that we've gotten it for free. Diana.
I also read, and this is very strange because I was worried about that testing capacity as well, is offering and providing is the same. So we have to keep that in mind as well. And if we can't,
So for instance, today was Thursday. Today was our employee day. It was Group F. Group F got to take a test today. We offered it at the Mendocino Coast Clinics. It was provided at the Mendocino Coast Clinics. And then we had a slew of teachers who texted and said, look, we would like to get a test. It's not our group, but we would like to test. So I called up the Mendocino Coast Clinics and said, we have some employees who would like to test. I spent the earlier portion of the week asking employees to tell me if they were going to test. The 13 employees who said, no, we don't have any intention on testing this week. So I gave those 13 seats to the 7 people who wanted them. And then today we had about 8 more people say, hey, I need to test. The Mendocino Coast Clinics was great. They said, Becky, just tell your folks to be there between 4 and 5 and we'll take care of everyone. And true to their word, the extra people came in between 4 and 5 p.m. They took care of everyone. So we have been fortunate to have that partnership with the Mendocino Coast Clinics. They don't want to turn anyone away if someone wants to take a surveillance test, because that information helps us stay safe. So we'll probably have more people ever tested before from Fort Bragg Unified this Thursday. It's very exciting. We typically have 32 people scheduled every week, and the largest number we've had test, I think, is 22. That was our biggest day ever. I am hoping that today has surpassed that. So we're very excited. So yes, short answer, we do need to provide testing. Other questions? Okay. Vaccine distribution. I was just excited about the vaccine distribution, and I wanted to give you a formal report on that. That was public, which is why it's in the superintendent report. Last Friday, we were able to vaccinate 300 people on the Mendocino coast, from Mendocino Unified to Fort Bragg Unified. That included Three Rivers Charter School, Montessori Del Mar Community School. It included the Catholic School, Glass Beach Preschool, Casper Children's Garden, some private licensed childcare. So Fort Bragg Unified had 174 employees get vaccinated, which is roughly 3/4 of our team. And then the other 125 people who were vaccinated were from our surrounding school districts and educational teams. It was fantastic. People came in. I don't think anybody had to wait in line for anything. I think the wait that they had to participate in was the wait to make sure you didn't get a reaction. So we vaccinated 12 people every 15 minutes, and we discovered that there was a lot of wiggle room with that there was a lot of downtime. And even during the lunch hour, when we shut down 2 stations, we still got people through with very little wait. So the second round of vaccines is going to happen on February 12th. We are going to condense it to a 3-hour clinic from noon to 3 p.m. And we are going to host 16 people every 10 minutes, but there won't be any paperwork to complete this time. We should be able to get people through the 4 stations very quickly. The longest wait they will have to engage in will be the wait to make sure that they have no adverse reaction to the second vaccine. I want to just applaud Mr. Triplett and Mrs. Alexander. They set up the whole gym. We literally walked in and the tarp was down, the stations were set up, all the signs were in. We didn't have to do anything. So I thank you for that, Mr. Triplett. I know that it's not easy to put that gym together. And to the custodial staff who always bring us much joy when they get to lay the tarp. So the gym is ready to go. They left it all up and running. They are going to reconfigure the gym just a little bit so that we can accommodate more people. I have to tell you, just very informally, I had so much joy on that day. It was seeing so many people face to face, even if we were fully masked. It was like 10 months of pent up. I don't get to see anybody in person, and now I get to see the whole town. It was amazing. It was just so much fun. And the who's behind the mask game, I won. Just saying. So it was just a joyous day. It truly filled my well. I want to thank everybody who participated and helped. So look for the next one to come. We will be organizing it again. It'll go quicker. And thank you to everybody on the screen who participated and helped, because we couldn't have done it without your support. So, and then the last thank you, I know I'm taking up time, is just to Lucretia Renteria and Meryl, and I can never say Meryl's name correctly, the 2 directors at the Mendocino Coast Clinics. Those 2 women are just champions for our town. They got that vaccine here and moved people along like no other. So it is an honor and a privilege to work side by side for them. And I told them I will follow them anywhere. So Wendy and I have already volunteered for the next Clinic on the Roadshow team with them. So we look forward to many more days to come. So sorry, Zaid. Now, sir.
Thank you so much for that. I just think what a gift to our district to prioritize education and, to help get our schools open, because I'm sure everyone would like to see all their friends masked up, even if it is masked up. So thank you for everyone that collaborated on that. Mary?
I just wanted to thank Becky publicly for, forging all of those relationships with the community and getting this going. This truly would not have happened without the force that is Becky Walker. So thank you.
It was a team effort. Thank you, though, Mary.
So Mr. Zaid Baser, student rep report. No, I just saw him. Is he there?
Yeah.
There you are.
Hello. Redwood, things are going well at Redwood. Teachers are giving the second eye reading diagnostic assessment in both math and ELA. The results of those will be used to provide students with individual online instructions. Special education teachers continue on offering one-on-one appointments with students, and our students working on paperback are also receiving one-on-one appointments as of January 11th. Dana Gray students are currently finishing the second round of reading assessments on English and math. Those will be completed at the end of next week. Our Dan Gray our Dan Gray counselor meeting was today on January 21st. We meet again on March to continue looking at our site plan. Our next monthly Dan Gray Parents Club meeting will be on February 9th at 5:30 p.m. We had a successful readathon fundraiser over the holiday break and are continuing with our weekly virtual classroom blue and gray dress up days to determine the most spirited class at each grade level. Fort Bragg Middle School is busy with second semester of distance learning. We have virtual math tutoring available for students. Miss Melsom, our counselor, has a game club available for students after school on Fridays. She leads a book club on Tuesdays. Fort Bragg High School Student of the Month will be sent out next Wednesday, January 27th. Link Crew is working on a scavenger hunt for 9th grade over the February break. ASVAB will offer to high school students on February 25th. Fort Bragg High School wants to wish everybody Happy New Year. Alternative education, no report.
Very nice, Mr. Baser. So thank you so much for your time and contacting all the sites. And you're welcome to listen to our invigorating meeting or if you have to exit at any time, it's totally fine. So our next report is Wendy Boyce on the brief Governor January budget proposal.
Yeah, this is going to be very brief because a lot of you have already seen a lot of the highlights that have come out of the governor's proposal in January. And as you all know, they can change drastically between January and May. We're hoping that a lot of the things that are in there will be able to be maintained. Some of them, there's probably going to be a little push and pull between the legislature about what to do with some of the funds other than education. The good news is there is going to be, he's proposing a COLA for next year that is a combination of the one we lost this year plus a small one for next year. So if that goes through, that'll be nice. The deferrals for this year are going to continue, but next year he's proposing to eliminate most of them until the end of 2022. However, all of the groups that advise us are advising us to leave them in for next year because that's one of the areas that's very uncertain with the legislature, whether they'll allow that kind of a buy down or whether they'll ask to that be done for another year. All in all, it looks promising. They are also looking at, as you noticed with our first interim, we looked pretty good for the 2 years, and then the third year we had quite a fall off. The state is actually looking at a similar thing. They're looking at surpluses for 2 years, and then 22, 23, they're also looking at deficits. So it's going to be very tenuous for a little while, but we are in a good position. So I think we'll be fine. We're just going to wait for more information to come out between what the legislature wants to do and what the governor's proposing. So we'll have a more in-depth discussion about all of it when we do second interim.
Do we have any questions for Wendy?
I just want to put out a reminder, if I may, please. Just to remind the board that our ADA, our average daily attendance, was held harmless for this year and last year. And as of right now, I just want to remind the board that we are down by 100 students, by a little bit more than 100 students. Where we are right now compared to where we were at this time last year. Remember, this time last year, we weren't in COVID land. This time last year, we were marching on students 5 days a week, fully normal. This time last year compared to right now, we are down by about, I want to say 102, 103 students. That's a significant loss of ADA for us. Wendy does a brilliant job with the budget, making sure that our head is above water. I just need to remind everybody that when we come back, our hope and prayer is that we are not down by that much, but we need to be cognizant of that because 85% of our budget is personnel. If we incur a loss of ADA of over 100 kids, that's going to hurt. So just be prepared. I'm hopeful that we're going to get a lot of those kids back, but we had 60 kids leave the zip code. So I don't anticipate that those families will be returning. So heads up, be aware of it. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind.
And I just had a question because I had attended the webinar and they were describing it. I don't remember the pockets of money. It could be they had received more income in the state budget. So of course, what their assumptions are better than what they anticipated. And they were kind of inflating that we were getting kind of new money. I guess we won't maybe have as many deferrals, but they were describing it like if I had earned wages and then my employer couldn't pay me, but then they gave me my back wages with my current paycheck, they say, oh, you got more money, but actually it was money that was already earmarked for myself, I'd earned. And that's how they were describing the money, the windfall of education money we would be getting. And I don't know if that was from the Prop 98 money or the deferral or why that was, but that it doesn't look as sweet as it looks because they're giving us money that we've already been earmarked. Does that make sense, Wendy? Or
yes.
You hear that?
And I think that's probably how they're looking at the COLA is it's the anticipated COLA for next year was 1.3 or something like that. And this year was supposed to be 2.31, I think. And so the windfall is that he's proposing to kind of put those together, combine those in next year so that we won't be flat funded if his proposal goes through. But yes, you're right. The deferrals are, oh, look, you're going to get all this money cash you didn't think you were going to get next year. But it is just pushing it off. And the state played this game a few years ago where they pushed money that they owed to the schools into July or August just so that they could show it in the following year, even though it was still our money from the previous year. So they do play this little shell game, and they've done it in the past, and eventually they catch up. They're not going to catch up completely next year, but his proposal is to catch up. My guess is that there's going to be a little bit of a push and pull and that they may end up continuing the deferrals. And that's why I think most of the people who send out advice that have connections in Sacramento are saying, you know what, hold on to those deferrals for next year just in case, because it's going to be a bit of a battle on that one.
Does anyone have any questions before we move on to the next report? I don't see Scott, but he'll raise his hand. So 8.6 is LCAP Development Goals 21-22.
So it's LCAP time, and we have an LCAP that's going to be due in June. And part of that is a requirement for LCAP goal development. Our LCAP goals will continue to be the same if our community and our staffing come together and say we still need to address those. I anticipate that the goals will remain. They're big, broad goals. It is closing the achievement gap. And I think we changed from closing the achievement gap to make it sound more positive. So, but it's the looking at our student success academically. It is improving school culture. And okay, come on, who knows the third? We're all looking at each other. Culture, improving
college and career.
College and career. So those are the three goals that we have. The college and the career has been largely focused on AVID, been focused on our career fair, our college fairs, looking at long-term goals with students, looking at the 10-year plan for students, looking at what we can do for long-term planning for students in the area of college and career. AVID has been something that I'm going to push the board, I'm going to push our administrators, I'm going to push all of us, and myself included, to really infuse AVID more vigorously in what we do in all of our grades. So that's our college and career. The student achievement is something that we need to continually focus on. COVID has given us a new focus with pursuing this with a little bit more vigor. So the good news about COVID is that we did receive some loss of learning mitigation money. We've been able to purchase LLI, which is a hugely wonderful intervention program that we've been eyeing for years and years and years, but truly we haven't been able to afford it. The iReady we've been able to purchase for a multiple year plan, so we're excited about that. We're going to bridge all these things together to make sure that we're continuing to keep our eye on student progress and then looking at the data so that we can ensure we are addressing our students' need based on their performance. So I'm excited about moving forward and really creating a stronger intervention team for our schools. So that's something that we're all looking forward to. And then culture continues to be something that we address. We address it through restorative practices. We address it through our counselors. So we're excited about our goals coming up into the next year. COVID has presented a few challenges for us, but I do believe that our goals are still very pertinent to the needs of our community and to the needs of our children. So look for that in the upcoming weeks. There will be Google meetings for public participation. We're going to be using the board chat also as another venue for public participation. And then I'll be visiting the site council meetings and the parent club meetings for the parent engagement as well. Questions for me? Okay.
Seeing no questions, we'll move on to see, is there a CSEA report? Do we have a representative?
There is no CSEA report and no FBDTA report today.
Okay, thank you for checking in with them. Our next item is approval of the agenda consent items, and these are items that are routine or non-controversial. The items on the consent agenda are passed. We're going to do it in 2 motions tonight without discussion, but let me know if you have any to pull tonight. Anyone have anything? Okay, so Mary, if I could have you read the consent items on the agenda, and then if someone could make a motion and second, but read it first. Yeah, thank you. Oop, unmute, Mary. Unmute.
Thank you. 9.1 warrants. Consider approval of warrants dated January 4th, 2021. 9.2 minutes, regular board meeting December 14th, 2020, special board meeting December 15th, 2020 for Board of Self-Evaluation, and regular board meeting December 15th, 2020. Item 9.3, personnel action report, consider approval of district employment. Item 9.4, budget calendar, consider approval of 2021-22 budget calendar. And item 9.5, quarterly uniform complaint summary.
May I have a motion?
I move. Is that just me or is somebody? I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. And we will move on to the first board action item, which is school accountability report card, which is board policy 0510. And we will start with alternative ed.
You're muted, Connie.
I was trying to unmute. My SARC, I have 3 of them, but they are all exactly the same. And the only difference from last year is our immersion in big picture learning and all that goes with that. So all our professional development is around that. And we are lucky to have a trainer who is great. And other than that, everything is the same as in past years for all 3.
I have a question.
Yes, thank you. Is there any? Yes.
You're welcome. I'm just wondering if you've seen a difference in, I guess, school culture is how I'd put it. Obviously, in participation, you said that's up. And so have you seen a difference in attitudes from kids and the culture?
Yeah. There are more kids who seem to be in kids who didn't like school that are liking school. They like being able to, for some, it's kind of overwhelming to go, I get to do what interests me. but with help, we've seen some amazing results. We have a middle school student who has gone from being a hating school to she loves it. She absolutely loves it, and it's bringing her and her mom closer, and the family dynamic is better. So yeah, they are. It's much improved with a lot of kids.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kathy?
Yeah.
I just noticed that the staff development days they were cut in half from a couple years ago. Is that because of COVID, or is there just been a change with the big picture learning, or what's that attributed to?
Some of it has to do with COVID. Some of it has to do with
I'm going to jump in here for you, Connie.
Thank you.
One of the things that happened in our ADCO meetings, Kathy, is that we were calculating professional development days differently.
Right.
So if someone had a 2-hour training on a Wednesday, we had a few principals calling that a day because it happened on that day. And then we had some people calculating the hours, saying that every 7 hours was a school day, right? So we had a change in calculation, and so that's going to account for some of the changes in days. So ask the question, and each principal will be able to tell you if that was a calculation error. So for Connie and Alt Ed, the professional development days that she had originally were hours, but we had more time, and so this time she has more time in her workday for PD, but it's not necessarily a full day.
Right. Thank you.
And Connie, didn't your staff wasn't there a day or two additional outside of their contracted work days that you did big picture learning?
There was, at the beginning, at the beginning of when we started this, there was a day, actually 2 days that were outside of their work, the work hours that were for big picture learning. Due to the trainer having, we had some training that was in person, but since then we haven't.
And the tricky part about the SARC is that the SARC is really for the previous year, but the PD the PD days are for this year. So it's a tricky little report because you're always bouncing between which year that it's happening. So some of that stuff with Connie did happen in the 1920 year, and that's when Big Picture started, when we adopted it. So, but the SARC on the PD is for these days.
Yeah.
God, I hope I'm saying that right.
I think that's right, Becky. I think we started some of it. Yeah, I think the PD is for this year and the SARC is for last year. It's a little confusing. But we are we're doing well with Big Picture. It's a never-ending process, and restorative practices. I'll say we continue to do that. I forgot to add, and I just want to put in that plug that we're still doing it, and Carla's still doing circles, and Carla has left her house 3 times since March, and so everything she is doing as far as counseling and meeting with kids is all virtual. She doesn't have as much freedom, and I know everybody is, but I wanted to put in a plug that she's doing a phenomenal job also.
This is just a general comment. I was surprised. Everyone, besides the elementary school, but everyone, we're above the state in suspensions, which I'm shocked.
Now let's be careful with the word above, because we want a low suspension rate, right? But our suspension rate is not, so 1920 didn't really happen. So we don't have 1920 data. We have 1819 data.
Right.
And so our suspension rate is higher than the state average, which is not good because we want it to be lower. right? Because we want to suspend fewer kids. So yes, and so for Alt Ed, that is the reason why they're in the continuous school improvement, why they qualified for CSI funds, which is the federal program for improvement.
Why I was surprised about that, because everyone really is kind of going down. So I was just so surprised that we were still, the threshold was still quite different, the gap. But I feel like everyone's making really good improvements and it's going down. And it does, like you said, it's kind of old data, 18, 19, we're kind of off now. And then I don't know how that'll work out.
Well, and the hard part about Alt Ed is that if you have 20, 25 students and you suspend and 2 get suspended, you're immediately at close to 10%. So they just don't have the volume of students. So that makes it tricky as well.
And when you go from, and it was based on Noyo. And so, when you go from, there's been a few bumps, but you go from, like 1 to 2, it's like shot us
way up.
Right. Well, and my comment really is, high school and middle school are both above. It's not, I wasn't just saying, I was just in general looking at the whole district. I just was surprised. But I know
and again, that's old data. That's 1819 data. And the hard part was we were on a good trajectory for 1920 prior to the crash when we had to close down. So if just know that it's something we'll continue to monitor.
And all of those numbers are a little wonky too, because generally they're pulled in from the dashboard, and there was no dashboard. So it's really a hodgepodge of who's using what for their year for their reporting.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying that. So this is a board action. So we need a motion to approve.
I'll move that we approve the school accountability report card for Alt Ed.
In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. And I believe, Renee, we need a roll call.
All right. Diana?
Yes.
President Diana, yes. Okay. And Mary Makla?
Yes.
Makla?
Yes.
And Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you. So we'll move on to 10.2, which is the accountability report card for Redwood Elementary.
Thank you. I wanted to highlight a couple aspects of our SARC. I know that you've had the opportunity to review it already. I know you heard the discussion of the changes in our PD hours, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about the PD that we've participated in this year. Some of it has been for iReady, which is the online individualized instruction in both math and ELA. And I know Zaid touched on this. Our teachers do assessments periodically through the year. Those assessments help place kids on a learning path. And the learning path, as they're going through the activities, it determines if they're having great ease with it, they're passing them quickly, it'll move them on to more challenging material. Alternately, if they're having a hard time completing the math with ease, then it breaks it down further so that the students get more instruction at the level that they need in terms of foundation. So we've had some PD through iReady, both on how to administer the assessments, and we've got a couple more in-services coming with them in how to interpret the data, how to refine this so that we can really make sure that our students are getting the most out of the program. We've also had some trainings through Math Solutions, and this is helping teachers learn some strategies to help students develop number sense, which is really essential for our young learners. So those are some of our PD highlights. Our building maintained good ratings across all the areas, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm really proud of how creative and flexible we've been this year about using our instructional aids. You know, we're used to having our aids in the classroom. they're supporting teachers, working with kids, pulling small groups. And so the work that they've done, getting up to speed with technology, and just looking at how we can utilize them to the best extent possible, whether that is pushing into virtual classrooms to reinforce what the teacher's doing or pulling kids out in small groups. It's been exciting to see what those amazing paraprofessionals are able to do. So it's been a challenging year. We're continuing as much of the programs as we're able to. We look forward to reinstating many of them when we've got kids back on campus and we've got families more able to access all the things that we're offering. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I was just wondering about the iReady. I experienced it a little bit with my granddaughter and I saw a lot of value in it. Just wondering if you can see a way of incorporating that going forward, even once we're back on campus.
Absolutely. It's meant to be done on the computer. So it's something that could be done after hours. The learning path, there's a couple ways that it can be done, Mary. Teachers can either assign specific lessons. So it could be assigned as an extension for something done in the classroom that's going to help further their learning, or students can go along the My Path, which is kind of what I was describing, which is what we're predominantly doing this year. Getting them started based on their results from the assessment, and then seeing where that takes them, because it is self-paced, along with some recommendations for the frequency of use. Right. But absolutely, it's something that is a regular part of many classrooms. So we look forward to seeing how it plays out in Fort Bragg Unified.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? And I guess I should ask, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindy. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Go ahead, Kathy.
And roll call.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
And President Paley?
Yes. And moving on to Dana Gray, the School Accountability Report Card for 2020-21.
So hello again. The SARC for Dana Gray very much follows the other two sites. There's not a lot of change. One of the things I tried to do for each of the sections was add a little bit about the 2021 school year and the COVID shelter in place, sort of to give the public a little bit of information about what some of the differences are right now related to virtual assemblies and virtual participation in classrooms and things like that. Our PD very much, and one of the things that is great about what we're doing right now, our PD very much follows what Redwood is doing. We're doing a lot of the same PD with iReady, Math Solutions. So we're working really as a K-5 unit related to the professional development. I'm excited about the FIT report. I know this may not excite most people, but we have been good in the FIT report since I've been here. We've only attained good. This is the very first year that we have attained exemplary. And they said we are a well-maintained school. A couple cords were plugged into the wrong places, but other than that, we ran around and fixed those, and we became exemplary. And then the last piece, I just wanted to note, because it is related to the suspensions, at the very bottom of the report, in little tiny writing, there's a note where it says that the 2019-20 suspensions expulsion rate are not comparable to prior years. And it is because the data is just wacky. Like it doesn't work. There aren't the same, it isn't apples to apples. There aren't the same number of school days. The kids were gone. I'm very proud that my suspension rate up till today is 0, absolutely 0. I've had no behavioral issues so far this year. except for, well, my own maybe, but that's all. Anyway, there you go. I think that's what I got. Any questions?
I'll just go ahead and ask you the same one, although I saw you nodding when I asked about iReady at Redwood. It seems like it's working great. It's a real silver lining to some of the COVID. And do you have ways that you're looking at using it going forward?
Absolutely. Just to mirror what Ms. Erickson said, exactly in the same way, teachers are going to use it as extension assignments. They're going to use it as things that can happen both inside and outside the classroom. One of the things that we're really thinking about as teachers is we cannot unring the bell of distance learning. Teachers love Google Classroom. Maybe they don't love it, but they now have discovered it as a tool that can be added to what they use. And I think education going forward is going to be very different in the way that some of the presentations are made. So a tool like iReady will be used in the future.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so may someone make a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the Dana Gray School Accountability Report Card.
In a second.
One second.
Good. Roll call, please.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
President Palin,
Yes.
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
and Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Very good. So moving right on to middle school, the SARC for middle school for 2020-21.
So Fort Bragg Middle School, similar to all the other sites, it's similar, but the differences for us this year are on page 6 of our school accountability report card. The teachers teaching outside of their area of competence, we have 10. That is because we moved to a self-contained setting. So, when I have my math teacher teaching humanities, that is outside of their subject. Also on the professional development days, it is on the narrative on page 12 why the numbers were so different, because it was quite glaring. And so I included that in the narrative. And then also as you go through, you'll notice that due to COVID-19 in a typical school year, because I still wanted to capture the essence of what we do at middle school while still communicating, should somebody be looking at our SARC who's considering coming to school here, I wanted them to know what a typical year might look like at Fort Bragg Middle School. So those are the highlights that I noticed. Are there any questions from any of you?
Thank you. Those were my 2 questions about PD and about the teachers out. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And then Mary, did you have a question?
I do.
On page 9?
Those were 2 of mine. I had 3. And the third one was, I was just really impressed with when you said that Erica Mulsum is going into every classroom every week, and just was wondering, have you seen a difference in attitudes or behavior in terms of the restorative practices?
It's making a huge difference in terms of culture with the kids. In fact, we had a circle. So we also do a staff circle on a weekly basis. And one of the question that we answered today, or that we all responded to, was shared with Ms. Mulsum by a student. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And so then she used it in all the classrooms and told the kids, oh, this is a student generated question. And then when she caught up with the student who provided it, shared that with that student, that he had driven the question of the week. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
Seeing no further inquiries, may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the SARC for Fort Bragg Middle School.
In a second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
and Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
Okay.
And our last school accountability report card is the high school.
There we go. Now it worked. Thank you. Ours is very similar. I was trying to highlight the things that changed. Exemplary, I had to comment because Mr. Kale finally reached exemplary. We've been exemplary for quite a while, Mr. Kale. Don't want to brag now. Some of the changes, I have the, we had to take away our residential construction, of course. It's kind of hard to construct things when it's virtually setting. I always, here's the reason why we don't remember the name as well for our digital media, because it is a long name. It's Web and Social Media Programming and Design. So it's easier to say digital media. That's why we say it. Some of the training we had, we've kind of kept similar the days of our PD days. Some of the training I think that we've had, like Pear Deck, Cami, these the tools that teachers can use in a virtual setting. But the good thing about it is when we come back, they've I think a lot of teachers have grown accustomed to using these, and I think it's going to be a tool once they come back, when kids come back on campus. So it's something that we're going to use from probably here on out for many of us. Other than that, really, we haven't had much change in the SARC. So I will pose questions to you if you have them for me.
Does anyone have any questions?
I was just wondering about dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment. Are we having courses, or because of the college, I didn't know if there'd be, like, it wouldn't work, or?
Yeah, we're having, actually, we added a new one this year. We added a English 200. So sometimes the classes that we offer, it's tough because, we have to meet minimum quals through Mendo College. But one of our English teachers, Amy Sariski, she met the quals. So she just finished. She was the only one this last semester that had a college dual enrollment class. So we added that. So we and we're meeting. We meet now. A few times. I think every other month we meet with Mendo College, and so we haven't changed. We've in fact added a few. And one of the things we're trying to look at is how can we use. Maybe we can teach a dual enrollment class and offer it. Maybe we're trying to get like maybe Point Arena or Mendocino, how we can do it with, working with them. But, the tough thing is it's tough with schedules. I think that's the toughest, because we had a discussion with Point Arena, because they have a science teacher that, possibly, or teaches a dual enrollment down there. And, we were thinking maybe we could, switch. A couple of their kids can come here, and maybe we can have some of their kids that do stats, and they can come join our class. But timing, it's just tough right now for trying to get the same schedule. So, but no, we're still doing it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting ideas. That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Kathy?
This is more of I had a couple general things for all the SARCs. That I don't know if it would be important for the public, if they do go to read these, if the acronyms maybe should be spelled out in the documents before they get published. I don't know how many people actually read it that aren't in the education field. And then I think the all district numbers in some of the columns on some of them weren't always filled in. So wanted to, and then we are slowly implementing our district vision and mission. And I don't know how that should or should not trickle down into the school's vision and mission, or definitely not the site goals, because those seem to be kind of different. But I guess it's just interchanging those words. And so anyway, those are future discussions, how, if those should all be the same too, or if they should be different. So attractions to come, I think that should be talked about eventually.
Thank you.
Diana, something's weird with your mic. I don't know if anybody else is picking it up, but you're really quiet on your first couple of words, and then all of a sudden your mic, I think, turns on and we hear you. So you might need to start off with a hello.
Okay, I'll talk really loud.
Now we hear you just fine.
It might be just me. I'm like the light. I kind of just turned off a little bit. Okay, so are there any other comments for the high school? I had a question about the CT advisory group. Just curious if that leads to partnerships in the community where they're interning or a job. Is that still happening in COVID times?
Yeah, I think they met. I think last right before the break, I believe they met. But there's another one coming up, so they are meeting.
Okay. And does that end up engaging? Is it just to provide like what is their mission when they go to those 2 meetings a year? And does it bridge the partnership with actual student work or internship, or it's just more of a commitment for the grant?
Well, no, it's to try to build relationships with the community, and I think some of them, sometimes we try, but right now, of course, it's difficult to have, internships and things like that. But no, ultimately it's get community involvement, to get community support, and get them partnering with the schools. So, and it's twice a year we do it. So yeah, we just had one, and we'll have another one, I think, in another month or so.
Trying to help with the career and college readiness. Cool.
Right.
Add more engagement. Very good. So may I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the SARC for the Fort Bragg High School.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Snyder,
Yes.
and President Paoli.
Yes. And we'll move to the reopening and return to school action item 10.6.
So I'm going to put Wendy on the spot here. Wendy and Diana and Kathy and all the board members, I think I did this wrong. So, and the reason I say that is because the COVID safety plan that's in the superintendent report I shared, and I'm going to need you to approve that, but I don't think I agendized it correctly to get it approved. So I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put that on the special meeting for Saturday to get approved, because it's not agendized appropriately here. Does that sound right, Wendy?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reopening plan right now and return to school, let me just kill the anticipation right now. There's nothing to vote on. It is impossible for you to take a vote on reopening school right now because we are in the new category of deep purple. Okay. And just to give a brief synopsis of what those tiers are, we used to just have purple, red, orange, and yellow. And now we have a new purple. It's called deep purple. So purple was if you had more than 7 positive COVID cases per day per 100,000 residents. Deep purple is if you have more than 14 positive COVID cases per day per 100,000. As of yesterday, we were at 32 positive cases per day. I emailed public health today to ask them about the math. As your local math-friendly teacher, I wanted to know who was calculating the math, meaning Mendocino County is not 100,000 residents strong. We are about 90,000 residents strong. So if you look at this per 100,000, we're really per 90,000. So is the state just saying, okay, we're just going to keep you at the same standard, 90,000 is close enough? Because if it's not, then we have different numbers, meaning that right now for deep purple, if you're in deep purple, the new governor's plan and the new California Department of Public Health, CDPH, the new CDPH guidance for schools says that yes, you can reopen in a phased format if you have 25 or fewer COVID positive cases per day per 100,000 for a 7-day average, okay? So for us, 25 to 100,000 average, if we take that 100,000 to 90,000, then that's a 22.5. But I know I'm getting way too technical right now, but I want to know if we have to do the math or not. So that question has been asked. I have not gotten an answer back from that yet. I think people are probably saying, oh, ratios, we have to do ratios. So that's another great lesson for our high school and middle school students. You come and find me and I'll show you all that. So for right now, let's just keep it easy numbers because those are the numbers that people know. We are in deep purple. Our county is in deep purple. So even if we wanted to reopen right now, we could not because we are in deep purple. If we get to a point in our county where we have fewer than 25 positive COVID cases per day, per 100,000 for a 7-day average. And remember that our 7-day average runs from Sunday to Saturday, okay? Because I spoke with a parent today and they said, well, what if we dip below 25 tomorrow, Friday and Saturday? Well, it's not gonna matter because the Sunday, this week goes from Sunday to Saturday, and Sunday through Thursday was not very good. It was well into the 30s. So those 5 days of being in the 30s, even if we got 2 days of 0, is still going to get us over that 25. So with that said, we are not in a place where I can bring a vote to you tonight. Okay. So let me explain what the reopening looks like so people understand where we're coming from. The new CDPH guidance, California Department of Public Health, says, yes, you may open if you have 25 or fewer. Okay. We're not there. However, grades 7 through 12 may not open at all until the county has 7 or fewer cases per day. Okay, 7 to 25 is a big leap. That's a big difference. So what does that mean for us? If we get to the point where we have 25 between 7 and 25 positive cases per day for a 7-day average, we can open our grades K through 6. CDPH guidance recommends that we do a gradual reopening and we phase it in, that we start with our youngest learners, because from this last year of COVID, their research has clearly shown that the youngest learners have the least likelihood of passing COVID. Okay, so if we get to that 25, we will be able to come together as a board and say, okay, are we going to reopen in a gradual phase or not? But before we can even get to that vote, we have to make sure that our MOUs, our memorandums of understanding with Fort Bragg District Teachers Association and CSEA, the California School Employees Association, those are our 2 bargaining units, that both of those units say, yes, we can reopen in the deep purple tier given these conditions. Our MOUs right now are based off of the red tier. And even though it doesn't specifically say that in our MOUs, that was the intent when those MOUs were crafted. It was about being able to reopen in the red because those were the rules at that time. The rules have changed. So I can't just come to you and say, take a vote. We are in the deep purple phase where we can open now. I need to go back to our bargaining units and make sure that our employees feel good about that and that we have addressed any concerns that they may have. So that's the first thing that I need to do is I need to go back and make sure that our staff feels good about this. So the good news is we just vaccinated 175 employees or 174. So I know we're going to get there. And I know our staff wants to bring kids back too. It's always about safety first. So deep purple, 25. We hit 25 or less, I can come to you and say, do you want to open up K6? After I talk to our employee groups. And then we have to have a few things in place. We have to have the COVID safety plan on our website and approved by our public health officer. The plan that you have in the board under the superintendent report is the Cal OSHA plan. That's part of that. The second part of that is the California Department of Health school checklist. And when we go through the checklist, all of the components are there. What I need to bring to you is the new reopening plan, what's the new reopening plan? It's going back to 2 iterations of a reopening plan. After going through and looking at our classrooms, measuring the 6 feet, looking at what we have as far as furniture and materials, the hope of trying to do an AM and a PM shift, we thought that was going to be best, but we simply can't fit half of our kids in an AM or PM shift. We don't have the physical space for it. So we're going to be looking again back at an AABB day schedule where it's going to be Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be the A days, Thursdays and Fridays are going to be the B days, and Wednesdays are going to be fully remote. With the Cal OSHA plan, a part of this is that if there is an outbreak on any campus, we have to shut the campus down. An outbreak constitutes, hold your horses, constitutes as 3 people being COVID positive within a 14-day period. And it really doesn't matter if they got COVID at the family reunion, if they got it from going to Montana for the spring break. But if we have 3 people newly positive connected to a school within a 14-day period, that constitutes an outbreak. And then the school needs to shut down and we need to provide COVID testing. What's difficult with the new guidance that we received from the California Department of Public Health, I have to be really honest with you, it makes opening much more difficult. There are 2 things that you will see, the California Department of Public Health and the governor's reopening plan. The governor's reopening plan that we'll talk about in 11 has not been approved by the legislature. The governor's reopening plan is dangling a carrot that says, hey, if you reopen, you can apply for a grant and get some money. California Department of Health is not talking about any money. They're saying, here's the bare minimums that you need to do to open. The problem with the bare minimums of opening, it looks at safety, which is fantastic. The hard part is there are some barriers that come with that. What we are looking for as superintendents of school districts is the mandates. What are the requirements? What are the shalls versus the shoulds? Okay, the shoulds mean that you need to provide it, you need to offer it. The shalls are the requirements. You will do it. So one of the things that's difficult right now is trying to decipher the shalls and the shoulds. So for instance, if we open in the deep purple tier, and I've got my notes here in front of me, for the California Department of Public Health, it says weekly asymptomatic testing for employees and students. There's no shall, there's no should there, okay? But if we were to test all of our students and all of our staff every week, please know that we have 2,000 people attached to this organization. The Mendocino Coast Clinics cannot keep up with 2,000 people coming for surveillance testing a week because it's not just us. It's also Mendocino Unified, Three Rivers, Montessori, Del Mar, the Catholic school. It's all of our schools on our coast. The clinics just can't hold up with that. So then that requirement, that onus would come to Fort Bragg Unified. The Mendocino County Office of Education, they have found a company who will send us test kits. And it's a Q-tip swab. You swab your nose, put it in the container, make sure the label is correct with name, birth date, and so forth, seal it up, and ship it off. Well, that's great, but we have to find someone to administer those tests. So we have to pay for staffing to do that. And if we think that one person can do 2,000 tests in a week, I don't think so. It takes 3 people at the Veterans Hall minimum to get through 165 people in one 8-hour day. So we have a monumental task here before us. So the company that MCOE, Mendocino County Office of Education, has found offers testing kits that can be sent to us, and they can keep up with the volume that we need. It is $55 a test. So if we did 2,000 a week, $55 a test, that's $110,000 a week. $110,000 a week. Is this how we should be spending our money? And I know that families are going to be saying, well, if it keeps our kids and teachers safe, absolutely. Okay, I will agree with you. I just don't know how we're going to afford that. $110,000 a week, in 10 weeks, we're well over $1 million. And that does not include the staffing to do it. It's not going to take one person to ascertain 2,000 completed tests. It's not going to take 2. It's not going to take 3. We'll be lucky if we get 5 or 6 people to get it done in the limited amount of time that we have. So do we go back in the deep purple or do we not go back in the deep purple? I feel like Hamlet or, Romeo and Juliet. We have to think about these things. If the CDPH guidance is more of a should instead of a shall, then we have to provide it, which means people have the choice to do it or not. Now, in reality, I don't see how we can require it, to be very honest with you. I can see a lot of parents saying, you're not going to nose swab my kid. And so we need to be cognizant of that. There are still many, many questions out here with all of this, and more requirements have been placed on us. So for right now, if someone asks me, hey, Becky, do you think we're going to open? Well, we can't even discuss opening until we get to 25. And at 25, based on what happens in our legislature, we're going to have to figure out if we're going to be able to pull this off. I can tell you right now, I don't see how Fort Bragg Unified is going to be able to pull off that level of testing. We are the second largest school district in our county, and I have no idea how you guys are going to pull this off. But I'm being very honest with you. 2,000 tests a week, I don't think we can do it. Now, if we open in the purple or the red range, purple, remember, is between 7 and 14 tests, positive tests per 7-day average per 100,000, and red is between 4 and 7. According to the CDPH guidance, if we open between red and purple range, well, then we have to, then the testing comes to every student and every employee every 2 weeks. So instead of $110,000 a week in testing, it now gets split in half to $55,000 a week. Again, Herculean tasks here. This is not something that we're going to be able to just be able to do. And again, what's realistic? Let me just go back to the data of our employee group. We have 32 people scheduled for COVID testing every week. The best we've done is 22. So that's the best we've done. The first week we offered testing, of the 32, I believe the number was 5 people who went, 5 or 6, and don't quote me on that. It's either 5 or 6. I just don't remember which one. Okay, but at that point, we had 20% of our folks go in to get a test. So will we get all 2,000? Heavens no, I just don't see it happening. So will we be paying $55,000 every week? Well, if we're not getting all of them, of course not. But again, if we have to provide it and we have to have all those tests on hand ready to go, we're going to have to outlay the money early in order to get the test kits so that we can have that on hand and provide that level of service. So so that's just one step on our staircase to reopening. So now let's pretend we've got the testing all good to go. We need to make sure that we have all the appropriate paperwork into the state. I'm not really worried about the paperwork to the state. I'm not really worried about the requirements. What I am truly worried about as your superintendent is the testing requirement. And if it's going to be a should or a shall. So we are waiting for the governor and the legislature to have that discussion. I know that the big management groups, the Association for California School Administrators, California School Board Association, the Small School District Association, got together with another management group, and I don't remember it offhand, so I apologize, but they drafted a letter to the governor specifically addressing testing because this was the barrier. So I do believe that testing is hugely important because if we do more surveillance testing, a positive COVID case will not get away from us, and it won't get away from us in a hidden way. The good news is that we know that if our folks are masked, if we are practicing good hand hygiene, and if we are maintaining 6 feet of social distancing, even if folks do have COVID, those 3 things combined really don't constitute an exposure, even if someone is COVID positive. So we know this, and we know this from the last year of following COVID. This is what our medical professionals are telling us. We have those in our safety plan. Masking is a requirement. Social distancing is a requirement. Hand hygiene is a requirement. So we have those components in. Our internet rooms continue to be successful because we continue to implement those requirements. So as we move closer to reopening, what I can tell you is this, that we are not, there's nothing we can do right now to open, even if you wanted to. We will get all of our ducks in a row so that we can reopen once our county hits that golden spot of 25. But even then, we're only going to be looking at K through 6, which means for the middle school, the 6th grade can be on campus, but 7th and 8th grade are still going to be at home. Okay. And that would be in a phased reopening plan. But before we do that, I have to get all of our ducks in a row, which means our safety plan, looking at the checklist, making sure that both bargaining units, CSCA, FBDTA are feeling good and comfortable with safety precautions and what we have in our working conditions for that particular tier, making sure that we have public input so that our parents can say, yes, we approve of this plan, and then moving forward for you to approve. Then we send it off to our public health officer, and then it goes, that recommendation then goes off to the state. And also our Mendocino County Office of Education is part of this as well. So I am confident that we can get the paperwork side done. I'm completely confident that we can work with our employee groups to get our schools open. What I am 100% worried about is the testing requirement. Is it going to be a shall or a should? If the grant money that the governor is talking about is attached to testing and it becomes a shall, and it's a shall with that grant money, the grant money isn't enough to cover $110,000 a week. The grant money isn't enough to cover $50,000 a week. So know that we are kind of in a pickle. So we're going to do the best that we can. I'm hoping that the legislature is having a good, honest debate about what should be left into that plan and what should not be left into that plan. I will be really honest with you that I am incredibly unhappy with the governor's proposal and using Prop 98 money as grant money. Prop 98 has never been intended to be grant money. The word grant means that some of you get it and some of you don't. Prop 98, 100% in our California Constitution is for every student. It is not an if-then contingency plan. So I just have to be really clear. I am bothered with how this is rolling out. I don't think it's fair. And the students who lose out are the schools who are handcuffed to their attendance, because those are our Prop 98 dollars. We are a school district that is handcuffed to our attendance. We are an ADA district. We are not a basic aid district, which means our property taxes are not high enough to cover or to exceed our attendance apportionment. So we rely on Prop 98 money. And for that money to be used as grant money, I'll be really clear. Pretty angry about it. I think it's unfair. It makes our poor districts who are already struggling with a high socioeconomically disadvantaged student population struggle more, which is why the large school districts wrote to the governor and specifically said that. So as we move on into this reopening plan, I'm going to get the ducks in a row so that we can have all the paperwork before you. I anticipate that we are going to have that ready by the February board meeting. I am not putting a whole lot of effort into the governor's plan right now, because if I had to bet, it's going to change. And I need to have a better grasp on the shalls and the shoulds. So for right now, we can't reopen anyway. We are well over the 25 threshold. We're going to do our best to reopen. If you were to say, hey, Becky, what's your best guess? Recognize that all of my best guesses have been wrong. So I can give you my best guess, but I wouldn't take it to the bank. My best guess right now is that we are going to be in a better position to open probably at the beginning of March. I don't see how we are going to get to open before our February break. Our February break takes us to the 3rd week of February. So I would say our best guess at this point is that we may be able to come back first week of March with grades K through 6. But again, we have to get all of our paperwork and all of our ducks in a row. As far as the high school, grades 7 through 8 go, 7 through 12. I don't know when we're going to be able to bring grades 7 through 12 back. My hope and prayer, and I mean this very earnestly, is that we are going to be able to do it March or April. before then, I'm going to tell you it'll be a complete miracle, and I will be the first one to, say hoorah. But to get our positive case rate below 7, when we are sitting at 32 right now, we need to be realistic. And also, when we started this COVID path on March 16th, 2020, we talked about that it would take some time for COVID to hit the coast. We said that from the very beginning, that the Redwood Curtain has kept us protected. Redwood Curtain meaning Highway 20 and all the other windy roads that take us into our little hamlet of Fort Bragg. Well, it's here. It's not only here, it's here with a big old bang. And so now families who have been incredibly fatigued by sheltering in place and not being with others, or they've been able to be with others and live life on the edge a little bit with the COVID not touching them. Now that life on the edge or being able to be with others when families are fatiguing is now hurting us because COVID is spreading like wildfire in our little community. So now that it's here, how do we contain it so that we can get to a place where those positive cases can be greatly reduced? That takes a community effort. I know our community can do it, but you ask anyone, we're exhausted. I will tell you I'm exhausted. I can't tell you how grateful I am that my son is in Ohio and not in school right now because I'm exhausted. We're all exhausted. So we have lots of work ahead of us. I know we can do it. I know that we absolutely can reopen our schools. It's not going to be next week. It's not going to be the week after. We have to do our best to get through it. The good news is our employees will have their second vaccine the Friday before the February break. I'm excited about that because it will mean that 10 days after that, our employees will have a vaccine in them that has a 95% efficacy rate for helping battle COVID-19. And let me just say helping battle. It doesn't mean that they won't get it. That's not what the vaccine was entitled or meant to do. And it doesn't mean that they're immune from spreading it. That's not what the vaccine is meant to do. The vaccine is to help people fight it. So if you get COVID, you're probably still going to get symptoms, but the hope and prayer is that you won't end up on a ventilator in a hospital. So I've given you a long, convoluted dissertation on where we are with reopening. The short version, can we open now? No. Are we close to reopening now? No. Will we be able to do this in a couple of weeks? That's a wait and see approach. I'm hoping by the February board meeting, which is February 11th, we'll have more information for you. We will definitely have all the paperwork ready for you. The state gave us a new requirement that begins on January 25th. Yay me. Every 2 weeks, I get to log in and tell the state where we are with reopening. Are we in fully distance? Are we in person 5 days a week? Are we hybrid? Are we operating under the small cohort guidance? Right now, we are operating under the small cohort guidance because we do have some of our special education students on campus to receive services as outlined in their IEP. Questions?
Yes. Anyone have any questions or comments?
And believe it or not, there is no public comment.
Wow. I am extremely frustrated on so many different levels. And if the only barrier at this point is testing, and they're making you do more backflips with more paperwork and then attaching money to a student, and those that are already open in the fall may have to close because of this requirement, even though they've been open since the fall because we had a waiver. Even if we had a waiver, those are all suspended. Is that right? Because we never opened either.
So you can no longer apply for a waiver.
Right.
Those who were under a waiver can continue to operate, but they the guidance supersedes the elementary education waiver process that was issued on August 3rd, 2020. All schools that opened under a previously granted waiver prior to January 14, 2021 that have stayed open may continue to operate under that waiver. but there are no new waivers being granted.
Right. And they also have to jump through the hoops if they want to apply for the funds.
So then some of them may, like us, if we can't afford it, they may have to close, even though they've been doing it safely since the fall. That just seems so. That's
No. They won't have to close. It's not that they'll have to close. If they want to tap into any of that grant money, then they would have to jump through those hoops. But they can still stay open without that additional money doing what they're doing.
Right. But I was just thinking, if Newsom's plan is approved by legislature, then the testing requirements would apply to them as well. And they may not need that.
Only if you want the money. That's the hard part. So that's what we're trying
to. That's what's mad. Okay,
that's what we're trying to discern right now. Is it for everyone? Is it only if you want the money? Well, what if you don't want the money? My concern again continues to be the testing. The amount of money that's being offered is not going to be enough if that testing requirement has to hold. And then the other question is, if we are in deep purple and we bring back K-6, then are we only testing K-6? I'm like, why would we test the high school and why would we test grades 7 through 12 if they're not on campus? So there's a whole lot of things that we have to flesh out with this and figure out where we stand. And what's interesting is that you get one group's interpretation, then I go on to a webinar or the superintendent's council meeting and you get another person's interpretation. What's interesting with this is that the California Department of Public Health, in their most recent guidance, stated that grades 7 through 12 will have to demonstrate stable cohorts. What's interesting about that is on the ACSA call today, the Association for California School Administrators, there's a superintendent's council every Thursday. So I sat on the superintendent's council today with other superintendents, and what the discussion was, the person who was speaking to us said, the people who wrote this, have they ever been to middle school or high school? How do you have a stable cohort? Well, and this was the argument that we've had in the beginning. It means you go back to the one-room schoolhouse, which is what we had talked about to try and keep our employees safe. Well, think about a one-room schoolhouse in a big school district. Okay, a one-room schoolhouse, it doesn't, you can make it work, but as a long-term solution, it doesn't make much sense because the Spanish teacher cannot teach math. The math teacher cannot teach English. The English teacher can't teach PE. So there's a credentialing issue with all of that. And then what do you do in the one-room schoolhouse? Like the young person at Fort Bragg High School today who went out into the quad to do Mr. Kubo's PE class. You're going to have him do that in the middle of the teacher teaching calculus? So that's the hard part. The good news for us is that our 7th and 8th grade is completely self-contained. So when it comes to that, our middle school is good to go because they will be in the one-room schoolhouse model. Our high school, I can see a lot of students saying, not going to do it. I'll just stay at home because of the classes that they're taking. So there's a lot of hiccups in this. There's a lot of discussion. What's interesting is that every time a new document comes out, I see a group of administrators scratching their heads saying, okay, now how are we supposed to do this one? I have learned through all of this to roll with the punches, which means when the governor's plan and the new guidance came out, I didn't even read it for a couple of days because I knew everybody was going to interpret it and I would have just been frustrated, so I stopped. And my husband said, well, aren't you going to apply for that grant? I said, not right now, because any work I put into it is going to change the minute that it goes to a vote. So I've at least learned in this process to just take a step back and not beat myself up to get all of it done in a timeline, because I've learned every time I've met a timeline, it's changed. So for now, there's nothing you can vote on. We are so deep into purple that we are not close to the 25 yet. I post every week the infographic of the from the previous Thursday or that Friday, so you can see where we are. You can go back into the staff blog and you can see those graphics over the last, good Lord, 20 weeks. So you can see how we've gone up and down and up and down. But it's clear that COVID is truly here on the coast, and the surge is with us, and it's with us right now. And the surge is not done because people found out that they were COVID positive after the Martin Luther King holiday, and there were many folks still intermingling with other groups. So I anticipate that this surge is going to continue for at least another 2 weeks. But again, I don't have MD next to my initials. Most of my guesses have been wrong. So let's hope my streak of not being correct continues.
So I just wanted to finish out with a thought. There is that school hub, which you'll talk about in the discussion, and there's a parent feedback, and there's also an admin section too, or input. And put in your frustration, because if that's our only barrier, the testing, that should be provided by the state, not with our Prop 39 money, but that this should help us open up. If they really seriously want to put educators, they prioritize them to get vaccinated, they should provide the schools with testing if that's our only barrier. So on our agenda for Saturday, I've put on to talk about advocacy and figure out what our board, to have a discussion and talk about our frustrations and how we were so close to opening back in November when our daily count was 8. And we weren't ready to, file the waiver then, so it wouldn't matter because we weren't ready. I mean, but our zip code is also not the same numbers as our county. So I want to find out who we want to write to. If we want to write to the, a senator, if you want to write to the education committee, if we want to talk at the education committee, if you want to talk at, and CC the CSBA. But I really feel like it's our time to try to formulate a letter, because that shouldn't be a barrier. We should be able to go back to, if it's safe to go back to school and the kids need it, because we know they desperately need it. The testing should not be a barrier. We should be open.
Well, and I just have to say, I have to say this very clearly. I know that we need our kids to go back to school. They are suffering, and not only our kids, our families, our parents, people are fatigued. However, and I'm going to say this very clearly, however, the surge is so great right now, I do not feel comfortable saying, let's go back. I don't feel comfortable doing it. And I have to say that I don't know if I'm going to feel comfortable saying that when we're at 25, depending on what our zip code looks like. If Ukiah has slowed down, but Fort Bragg has ramped up, I'm not going to feel good about coming to you saying, well, let's open. We have to have many factors in place. Now, I will tell you very honestly that I had no problem opening in September, October, November, and December when it was at 8, when it was at 7, and even that seemed high, but I truly believe in the masking, social distancing, hand hygiene. Now that we're hitting into the 30s and even into the 20s, and I'm watching it pop up in our community with our families, people are going to be nervous. So I really want to focus more on getting this vaccine out, getting our employees to feel safe, and then looking at a gradual reopening plan when things start to simmer down a little bit. So safety has to be first. I absolutely recognize and acknowledge that. And the hard part is that we are now getting a huge surge of COVID to the 95437 zip code. And we're going to have to really keep our finger on the pulse of our community to see how it's playing out, fully recognizing that our kids need us. Our kids need us. It's a balance.
Does anyone else have any comments before we move on to the... Let's check my notes.
Diana?
Yes. Mary?
Should we let the administrators leave?
I was just going to say that.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm new at this, but I figured that if anyone needed to leave, they would exit. But absolutely. Thank you all for sharing your evening. And you're free to exit at your leisure. Sorry to hold you up if you were waiting for the call. So we will move on to the K-5 intervention teacher job description, 10.7.
So this is a pretty easy one. So we took our K-5 intervention teachers, and we had a whole slew of duties for our English learner population for the monitoring of that. That's part of our Title III requirements. And so Tina Kranoff has been serving as our district-wide EL coordinator. So she has been serving in those duties, and we made that a full-time position this year because of COVID, and we were concerned with our EL students slipping further behind. So now for intervention, they're not performing those duties. So what we want to do is I'm going to ask you to approve this job description for our intervention teachers. And the only difference from the previous intervention job description is that we've removed the EL duties. Not that we don't want them to help support EL students. It's the nuances of the formal reporting and the formal monitoring that now Tina Kranoff is doing. So in any case, that's why you have this in front of you. We are hoping to add an intervention teacher for next year using our COVID money to help support kiddos who have fallen 2 or more grade levels behind. Like I said, we are excited about the program that we've purchased, LLI, the leveled literacy intervention, by Fountas and Pinnell. So we want to be able to support that program and provide as much intervention support as possible. So before we can post that position, we need a current job description, which is why you have it before you.
Does anyone have any clarifying questions? What's the difference between an intervention teacher and a resource teacher? So is this one and the same?
No, resource teacher is special education. An intervention teacher is looking specifically at students who may not have an IEP, who are 2 grade levels below current in reading.
Thank you for clarifying. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the intervention teacher job description.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Paley,
Yes.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. The next board action item is board policy updates that we reviewed at the December 14th board meeting. And I believe there was just one that we used option 1. I'm sure someone took notes. And then I have another note. I think they were all mandated and new laws, but the sexual harassment complaint procedure, there was option 1. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the board policies that we reviewed last month.
In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
President Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
and Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
You.
And the last action item is board meeting calendar 10.9.
So we're bringing this back to you because I believe we found a few errors. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just need to make sure that we provide the public with what the regular board meeting dates are and that they're correct. And I think the August date was incorrect when it was published. So that's been fixed. But let's, if you want to make changes, now's the time. Now is the time. And so I know there was a question about June. I don't know if we want to bring June back. If we want to do like the 17th and the 18th, we talked about that at one point instead of doing Monday the 21st.
Yes. Mary?
I would be in favor of doing that and not making someone have a board meeting on their birthday if everyone else is agreeable to that.
Or for Wendy, would we could do the 22nd. Is that better? So you have the weekend? Because that was the concern last time, that you didn't want it like overnight. You'd have to do if you had any adjustments.
Yeah, because frequently, that's pretty early in June, the 17th, to have everything after the May revise and hopefully get some feedback from what's going on in the legislature. So the 17th and 18th, it might be a little tight for a final.
So how about June 22nd? Are we good with that?
You really don't need to move the meeting.
I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. The 22nd is fine with me. Anyone else?
The 22nd is fine with me too.
Is this June?
This is June.
Yeah, 22nd does not work for me.
Okay, so that's why. Okay. Not that it's your fault, Mr. Schneider.
Sorry. You're the 23rd.
Okay, 23rd.
Because just to clarify, we can't approve a budget in a special meeting. Is that right? It has to be a regular meeting because it's important to make sure that these are good dates. Okay.
Is Wednesday the 23rd good for folks? Right smack dab middle in the week? Okay, we're going to say it's good for Jerry too.
And
okay.
I just, you're moving this around, and if we're not in COVID land, I may be in another state that week. My son has qualified to go into a national shooting sports event, and so I may be in somewhere else. But as long as everybody else can be there, then you'll have a quorum.
Okay.
So
we'll make it work.
And I doubt he's going to get to go, but
hey,
there's a glimmer of hope.
And then just to clarify, so when this was before us in December, it said August 12th, which was the Thursday before school started. And now it's intentional that you want it the second day of school. Is that right?
The reason we did it the second day of school was so that we could introduce new staff. People wouldn't have to come to a board meeting when they're in the middle, in the throes of trying to get their rooms together. It's just tricky. And if by any chance that we have a way to be in person, we kind of had a meet and greet. And I don't know if folks remember that. It was very lovely, but it's hard to do that week before school. Folks are inundated with getting things together. So the idea behind it was that if we did it the second day of school, then we could report to the board how the first day of school went. We could report to the board how what was happening on our campuses. So that was actually intentional. So to move that to August 19th is great. So I see. So that's one change, and then moving June 21st to June 23rd. And then everything else this time, I'm going to say is good to go.
So may I have a motion to approve as revised?
I'll move that we approve with the adjustment of the June 21st going to June 23rd for the rest of the year, the calendar.
I'll second.
Diane, I didn't hear what you just said.
Roll call, please.
Okay.
I didn't hear it either. Sorry. President Paoli.
Yes.
Trustee Makala.
Yes.
Trustee Schneider.
Yes.
And Trustee Babcock.
Yes.
The next item is information and discussion, which is 11.1 Governor Newsom's California's Safe Schools for All plan.
So in that background sheet, I put the links so that everyone could view what we're talking about, and you can look at that. It's a lot of documents. The basic point behind the governor's plan is he wanted to incentivize for school districts to open, and he wanted to incentivize for our kids to return. And to his credit, it was a phased plan. And so, again, this has not been approved by the legislature. This is just what the governor is proposing right now, and it's getting duped out right now. So what it calls for is if you wanted to apply for the grant money, that by February 1st, you, the school district, would submit your COVID safety plan, which is your prevention plan and the CDPH checklist. That's your safety plan. Then you would have an affidavit or some kind of an MOU with with all of your bargaining units to show that they have had approval of the plan. Then you document and show that you've had public community input, and then that all of that's board approved, and you get all that to the state by February 1st. And then you commit to having kids back on campus. I think it was February 14th or the 15th, February 15th, mid-February. Well, we're on break at that point, but that's okay. We could still qualify for this. But the qualification would be that you bring in at least your TK through grades 2 in the phase, and then you roll into the next grade. But by a month after that, grades TK through 6 would be back. Now, one of the things in the California Department of Public Health guidance and the governor's plan is the definition of open. A school is open if everyone in a grade level has been offered the opportunity to return. So in order for Dana Gray to be considered open, we would have to say we offered the entire 3rd grade, or pick a grade, the entire 5th grade to be back on campus. Okay, even if we don't have the other grades back in. If you don't have an entire grade being offered back in-person instruction, the school is not considered open. So if we did the phase-in reopening and we never got to Dana Gray, a full grade level at Dana Gray to open, and then we went back up to 35 COVID cases per day for our 7-day average, Redwood could stay open, but Dana Gray couldn't open. Does that make sense? Just because one school opens, it doesn't mean that the whole district is open. Reopening means that a school is open when a full grade level has been offered, provided the opportunity to attend in-person classes. So you can read all of these things in the governor's plan and his proposal for the money. The money ranged between $450 per student to, I want to say $750 per student. And then I attached the link to the school guidance checklist so that you could see that. And then I attached the link to the California Department of Public Health guidance. So I wanted to just give you the opportunity to ask me more questions. There's nothing to be determined at this point, but I will start getting all the paperwork together.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I'm just curious, you don't get any sense of what's happening at the legislative level until it's voted on, is that right? You don't?
So we've been asking, Michelle Hutchins has been great trying to contact Senator McGuire, Assemblymember Wood, to get their input and take on things. Michelle did get an appointment with Senator McGuire, but I'll have to go back and look at my email and find the date. So I haven't had any contact as far as personal hearing voices contact with Michelle or MCOE this week. I spoke with Becky Jeffries on another issue, but that's it. It's been really busy in the office, believe it or not. We're just inundated with things to do, and I know that sounds crazy because I'm filling up my gas and I see a parent. How come you're so busy? Kids aren't back. I'm like, well, there's lots of paperwork that we need to do.
Okay. Well, I know that, is it Jim Wood is having the town hall, or is it McGuire and Jim Wood next week? So hopefully we'll hear something then.
Scott, did you have a comment? No. Nope, you're unmuted. Kathy? Nope. I just want to thank you for all being flexible. And this is the most frustrating position I've ever been in because we're kind of stuck in a box. We get to watch everyone struggle and we say, our hands are tied. And we aren't clairvoyant, so we can't get too far ahead because they change the rules on you before you even get forward. But I just feel like, they're tying our hands, and I don't think that they realize the conditions that they placed, what it's really going to roll out to. But I have been trying to follow the AB 10, which is the I think it was an assembly bill brought on by a few of the Democratic representatives at the education committee level, and they're pushing to open, by spring. And I don't know how that correlates with all of this. How they're trying to push that, but then we have the plan of Newsom, and then we have this, the California Public Health. But that's why I put it on our Saturday board retreat to just talk about. Even though it may not feel effective, but we do have a lot of representatives at our fingertips. And if we have to write to the education committee or, whatever, just to show that we're supporting our admins, we want to help, and let them know how inequitable this is, across the board. There are many schools that are open, but some won't be able to sustain this plan if it goes forward. So I'm just, pretty disgusted that they're making you do more paperwork when if it's a safety issue, it should be provided. And they need to find that money to get, because this also helps with the economy when the schools are open and we can do this safely because the science is there to say the masking's working. And when our numbers go down, because my only clarification is, so with all of this, it's so confusing. We're in deep purple now, but we couldn't, in the old days, we couldn't even file deep purple wasn't even a term. It's just, there's nothing we can do. We can't get ahead of it. You can't really be proactive, but then it feels like things can change rapidly in the future. So you don't want to, the testing could not be, maybe in 2 months, it's not going to be an issue at all because someone's going to just drop kits on us and pay for them. I don't know. It's super frustrating.
We have a lot to figure out still. So. You're muted, Diana.
Yeah, I'm intentionally talking to myself. Moving on. 11.2, information and discussion, Mendocino Coast Clinic Student Services.
So I wanted to bring this to your attention for us to have a discussion. Prior to COVID, I was exploring the possibilities with the Mendocino Coast Clinic staff about providing services for our students and families through the Diedrich Center. And that was going to be like on short Wednesdays, having some staff there to help our kids with either counseling services or acute, some medical services for kids and families. So we're opening up that discussion again. And where this originally came from was I had the privilege of attending some WASCs, which is the Western Association for School and Colleges, and visited other high schools and saw that they had student services on their campuses or really close to their campus where students could receive medical attention. They obviously have to get their parents' permission, but there were some student services that they could get and get help, counseling, reproductive services, those types of things. And this is always a hot button item because Blue Door, in having a discussion with them, there's been great concern with kids coming into Blue Door and they provide information for our young people. And I'm not trying to say that I want us to have, I want us to be able to offer services to our kids and our families. That's what I want to be able to do. And having some type of medical services for our kids and our families that are close to our schools will be hugely beneficial. Mendocino Coast Clinics can provide that level of medical services for our families on their grant funding. And if we could provide the space, and it's a win-win for us. It's something that we can explore. I'm not asking you for a vote. I'm asking you for your guidance. Do you want me to continue to explore this? Is that a yes? Is that a no? Hey, Becky, this is not the right time for this. Let's wait a year. Or you know what, Becky, our families could use services. Let's look into it a little bit more deeply. I spoke with Nancy Klein, our attorney, regarding what would be necessary. And it really would be a facilities use agreement where they would provide the insurance and because they are a nonprofit. So that's something that we could do. We wouldn't have to enter into an MOU with Mendocino Coast Clinics, and we could just, go month to month to see if that's something that we want to do. So I'm throwing that out there for your guidance to see, is this something you want me to explore and bring back to you, over the next couple of months so you could see the repertoire of services that Mendocino clinics could provide to our students and our families. I'm really looking at lots of counseling. We've talked about continuing with Hallie DeVriel and her team for next year to provide student support. And this, again, is just more student and family support. So just looking for your guidance, looking for your gut, do we explore, do we not explore? Discussion open. Ms. Scott?
So I think one of the things this time has done is create a stronger partnership between the district and the clinics. And I think this is a great idea. And as you have time, I think a deeper exploration would be great. Thanks for bringing it to us and getting it started.
Mary?
I completely agree. It's a wonderful idea. The more services we can provide the kids and the closer to campus where they're more likely to access it is a great idea. Thank you.
Well, and I like the Diedrich Center because it provides services directly to Alt Ed and the high school. And it's not on the high school campus because that's always a bone of contention, right? That it's a high school program. And Dana Gray is right there. So I really appreciate that it is front and center of 3 of our campuses, which is a big deal.
So would it be like kind of office hours or just a daily thing or a once a week? I mean, what is
that's what I need to explore. That's what I need to explore. But I don't want to dive deeply into this if the board isn't supportive of using that building for family and student services.
And would this impact staff? Because how do you get, the releases? There's got to be some coordination would that just be at each site? It'd be more of the office. How would that burden our staff?
It wouldn't, because we're not going to staff it. It's not our gig.
To get the official release. That's where I'm trying to figure out so that nothing falls through the cracks. How do you know that the student has the release to be able to have the counseling?
That's not our concern. That's a clinic concern. It's no different when a kid shows up to the clinic. It would just be an extension of their clinic, but it would just be on our property. We would have nothing to do with it. We have nothing to do with the releases. We have nothing to do with the permissions. That's all the clinic. No different than a kid showing up to the clinic to receive services, or the parent coming with the kid to receive services.
And it wouldn't be open during school hours, or it would be possibly?
Again, we just have to explore. Right. It could potentially be open during school hours. It could be one day a week. Meryl is from New York, and she did a lot of these with East Coast schools. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to tap into her expertise and Lucretia's and figure out, okay, what model could we look at and start small? Like it may only be one day a week. Like if we go back to full 5 days a week and we have our short Wednesdays return, it could be just Wednesdays from 1 to 4. And originally that's what we were looking at, is we were looking at Wednesdays 1 to 4. So we can do a whole myriad of things, but I want to be able to explore this if this is something that the board supports. And I don't want to spend too much time on it if the general consensus is not a good idea.
Kathy?
I support it. It was, the more kids. And I think when we come back to campus, if you can get counseling services, I think more and more of our families are going to be in need. So double thumbs up.
Yeah, me too.
Very good. Bring it back with more information.
I will start working with Lucretia Renteria on this for us to look at some possibilities for proposals. And we're starting gradual. So with a gradual start with this makes a whole lot of sense. I anticipate we are going to discover things as we go along. And so I would rather do this gradually, one day a week, a couple hours a week, and see where we begin.
Okay, so we are at our end of our agenda, advanced planning suggestions for future board meetings. Does anyone have any comments?
So what I will say is that once the governor's plan gets through the legislature and we have more of an idea of a timeline and the parameters, we may need to call a special meeting in order to get some of this done. We do have a special meeting on Saturday, but I won't have all the paperwork ready for you for Saturday. So in any case, just be prepared. I don't want to just have a special meeting on the books to have a special meeting. If we need to do that, I'll make sure that we try and give ample time. We only need 24 hours for a special meeting, 24 hours posting of the agenda. So just keep it heads up. I am anticipating that February 11th for our next board meeting is a fine date to get the majority of this completed.
Very good. So with no other comments, we'll go to housekeeping, and we are having a special board meeting, which we call the board retreat, from 9 a.m. to noon, and that's this Saturday. And we will also have the you want the Cal OSHA on that meeting? It's timely on that special meeting on Saturday.
That will get approved on Saturday. So if anybody wants to attend the special board meeting on Saturday, the link to attend that meeting is in the agenda under, you have to email us. Email at board meeting at FBUSD, and we will send you the link to attend that meeting. We are not going to be live streaming that meeting, but anybody can attend. Anybody can attend.
Very good. So then we have February 5th is the end of the quarter 3 grading period for maybe high school. I'm not sure. That must be high school.
And then also there's an error on here. February 12th was the career fair. And it was supposed to be February of last year for the career fair, and COVID kind of put the kibosh on it. So we had rescheduled it to February 12th. And so we still can't have it. So we're going to go ahead and just line item that out. There is no career fair on February 12th.
Okay. So going back to February 9th, I'll keep tradition and see if anyone can attend that meeting at 3:30 middle school. Mary, are you available?
I've already talked to Laura. She sent me the link.
Perfect. And then there's Dana Gray, February 9th. Oh, sorry, Becky.
Nope, keep going. When you get to February 15th, let me make a comment.
Okay, very good. February 9th is Dana Gray, which I think is Jerry at 5:30. So I'll email him and see if that's going to be okay with him.
Yeah, he went last month. I think he's been.
Yeah, and so we're ready for February 15th.
Okay, February 15th. Chief Naltine notified us that he would like to do a little bit of training with some officers. So if you're around any of our campuses on the 15th, it is a federal holiday. There will be a police presence, but for nothing else other than just kind of doing a walkthrough of our campuses with some officers. So I don't want folks to think that there's something going down. There's nothing. It's just so that our local, our new officers can review our school campuses, really.
Right. And it's public school sites. They're just using it for training, that's lovely.
Well, and they're doing a walkthrough so that our officers know where stuff is. So you'll see a police, a couple of cars parked out in front, but that's good small town talk right there. So there's nothing exciting going on. I just wanted to say that publicly.
Thank you. So we will have a winter break, February 15th through the 19th. And February 23rd is the Fort Bragg High School Site Council meeting at 3:30. And I am a parent, and I know, Kathy, this would probably still be a hard time for you.
I just made a note to mark off. I'll, because I missed the last one, so I will be there.
Okay, very good, Kathy. And then Redwood is having a site council meeting on February 25th. That's me. End of grading period for middle school is the 26th of February. And there's a Dana Gray SARB meeting on March 3rd.
I think that's their SART. I think they have a SART meeting, which is their school attendance.
I was with the SARB. Yeah. So is that open to the public?
Their SART team? No, that's just a reminder.
Okay. So no one needs to attend March 3rd. And then March 12th is the end of the second trimester. So agenda setting is February 1st. And I believe Mary is on for agenda setting.
Actually, I think you are, and I'm there with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is there are there any other comments before we adjourn?
Just again, a reminder, if anybody would like to attend the special board meeting on Saturday, to email boardmeeting@usd.us, and we will get you a link and an invite to that meeting. That is also noted, that will also be noted in the agenda that's going to go out tomorrow.
Very good. So motion to, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Jerry's not here.
No, but his cousin is.
All right, I'll move to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. So moved.
And thank you, Nathan Alexander, for filming today. Everybody have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the updates.